I feel like this should have main evented the show. And it's a very difficult spot because obviously once you have a world title on the card, you know, AEW have been very good in kind of having that reverence for the world title and making sure that the world title more often than not finishes the show, closes the show. It's the most important thing on the show. However, you've almost built this entire pay-per-view around the Continental Classic, so much so that the semi-finals happened on the show as opposed to the semi-finals happening elsewhere on AEW programming, and then the final just happens on the show. The semi-finals and the final happened on this show. So the most important thing about World's End was the Continental Classic. So to talk just roundedly about the Continental Classic, right? Like I said, 5 tournament wins now, major tournaments, what they're currently as major tournaments for Okada, makes him the most decorated and tournament wins in wrestling, I guess. Could they have done more to sell the overall importance and pageantry of the tournament? I think so. And I'm just talking about throughout the entire tournament. I'm not talking about on the night. On the night, 100% they could have done more. Okada wins, confetti should have been falling. Pyro should have been going off. Do you guys remember when, I can't remember, what did Ricky Starks win? The Owen Cup or something like that? The Owen Belt or something? And the pyro that was going off for Ricky Starks winning that. Like, that is exactly what Okada should have got. Okada should have got so much pyro, confetti, you know, Okada dollars, everything. They really should have dressed this up to make us feel like this is a major tournament and, you know, wow, this is big business for the person that wins this. And a couple of things happened. Okada won, and there was almost like a bit of a delay. The camera was obviously on Ospreay and Ospreay walking away and stuff like that. Then obviously Christopher Daniels comes out, and Christopher Daniels is basically saying how, right, in my usual EVP role, I'd walk down and they'll hand you the title and all of that kind of stuff. And I can't really remember any time that Christopher Daniels has handed anyone any title, but that's what he says that he would usually do. However, he's no longer an EVP because this man is. And I think at that point, we all knew he was going to walk through the door. Kenny Omega returns to AEW. Massive ovation. I was smiling from ear to ear. That is my guy. And it wasn't necessarily emotion, but it's just like, a star has entered. Like, you could feel the presence, the aura, as the kids say. You could feel it as he walked through the middle of the 2 tunnels and stuff. Like, it felt like a big star has returned. And one has in Kenny Omega. He looked in great shape. He stood there. He took in the adulation. He picked up the Continental Classic belt, which was at the top of the entranceway, and he walked down to the ring with it. And he walks into the ring and he hands it to his most storied rival of all time, Kazuchika Okada. He hands it to him, a small little clap, just to, you know, I'm neutral, I'm an EVP, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he walks away and leaves Okada to kind of celebrate. He walks up the ring, walks up the ramp later, and you know, celebrates a bit more. Again, no pyro, no nothing, no confetti or anything. I feel like this should have main evented the show. And it's a very difficult spot because obviously once you have a world title on the card, you know, AEW have been very good in kind of having that reverence for the world title and making sure that the world title more often than not finishes the show, closes the show. It's the most important thing on the show. However, you've almost built this entire pay-per-view around the Continental Classic, so much so that the semi-finals happened on the show as opposed to the semi-finals happening elsewhere on AEW programming, and then the final just happens on the show. The semi-finals and the final happened on this show. So the most important thing about World's End was the Continental Classic. And Okada should have won. Okada should have got that big, you know, like I say, confetti and everything dropping to kind of celebrate this win, to show us how important this win is, even to celebrate his legacy as the greatest. There's no additional celebration. They never done any of that. And then Omega came out, which is your big angle, to really sell. And you had your AEW All In, poster in the background, which is, I guess, foreshadowing where this is going to happen. This match of these two is going to happen. And he walks away. Okada walks away, and yeah, we move on with the rest of the pay per view. It's, I don't know. I don't know if it's as difficult as I'm maybe giving them grace for. Like, I feel like you could have made an exception, and this should have ended the show. Omega returning is the biggest thing on the show. I'm sorry. It's like, I mean, after obviously the matches and crowning this person winning, Omega returning is bigger than whatever that main event angle was. Because a couple of things could happen. Omega, yes, you're going to tell us that Omega Okada, we should be getting that, as long as everyone stays fit and healthy, we should be getting that somewhere down the line. And you've kind of foreshadowed where it's going to happen at All In. Omega is also an EVP. Omega is also one of the founding fathers of this promotion. Right now, this promotion is in a chokehold by Moxley and the Death Riders. So if anything, this should have been a hero coming to close the show. Yeah. Obviously, he's got business with Okada, but also someone that we can see as a hero coming to close the show that could also be seen as someone that could challenge Moxley to wrestle back control of AEW, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know. I feel like the placement of this and the framing and picturing and presentation of the C2 just could have been better. However, I'll caveat that now saying, however, I think the C2 is quite easily the best thing about AEW. Like, the greatest thing that this company have stumbled across in the last 2 years, let's say, it's the C2. It's the Continental Classic. Like, this tournament allows AEW to do what their mantra is. They say this is where the best wrestle. It allows people to wrestle. 20-minute matches, you have to get your stuff done in that time and get out with your wins or your draws or whatever the case may be. It's allowing them to build characters more so than their regular TV booking is, and build angles and to tell stories. They're doing it with so much ease compared to what they are doing outside of the tournament. It's the greatest thing AEW have done, this tournament, and they need a women's one. They for sure need a women's one. Doesn't need to run concurrently with the men's. Probably a good idea for them not to run it concurrently with the men's and run it at a different time of the year. But they need a women's one. The company says that this is where the best wrestle. This tournament is fantastic for showcasing that and telling stories and getting characters over. For the people in the tournament, like Okada has done respectfully next to nothing of real importance since his arrival. Good matches, of course, it's Okada here and there, TV and pay-per-view when asked, but maybe that's the fault of us as fans thinking that we're gonna get 2017 Okada or something like that, 2018 Okada in AEW. Maybe that's our fault as fans. But this tournament brought him alive, even though he took a loss somewhere in the tournament. This tournament, and a draw, in fact, this tournament brought him alive. And there's other extenuating factors. Maybe his move to America. We don't know as fans. It might have been a rocky one. His missus recently had a baby. Like, you don't know, innit? But like, this gave me the feels of Tokyo Dome Okada. Like, this was him at his best again. Kyle Fletcher. I've already spoken about how great Kyle Fletcher, following the big win against Ospreay, And then coming into this, I feel like Carl Fletcher has just shown that, he is a big player. He is a big player. He's a fantastic wrestler. And there is a bit of a question of like, all right, he's lost just before the final here. You've built him up so much and now he's lost just before the final. What do we do next with Carl Fletcher? I'm not too worried. They seem to have a plan with Carl Fletcher. But I can understand, some sections of the audience are kind of wondering, why did you give him so much? And then he didn't even like reach the final and lose to Okada. Let Okada get his win back or something like that. I understand that. But like I said, it looks like they've got a plan for Fletcher. So I'm not too worried. Daniel Garcia entering this tournament as TNT champion. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he didn't need to be in the tournament per se. But again, he got some good wins, some good results over his time being in the tournament. Mark Briscoe, I'll be honest with you, I always sigh when I see Mark Briscoe included. It's been 2 years now included in this, and I'm just like, why? But Mark Briscoe gives us, good matches even in defeat. Shelton Benjamin, who hasn't enjoyed Shelton Benjamin in this tournament? Wrestling this more aggressive, stiff style, like obviously combined with his Hurt Syndicate character. Been great. Beast Mortos. You can just count on that man to give you great matches. I don't think he won a match, but yeah, you can count on him to give you great matches. Juice Robinson was in this tournament. He got injured. They replaced him with Commander. Commander is like one of the feel good stories from AEW, the back end of this year, especially. He's now went off and he's TV champion in ROH. Commander's been fantastic in ring. Fantastic in ring. Cannot doubt that. Brody King probably would have liked a bit of a stronger showing at times. At times, great, but yeah, not much for him. Darby Allen. Darby Allen, we know, is on a collision course to face John Moxley, become AEW World Champion probably at some point next year. So this helped his cause and probably told more of his story with the Death Riders. Again, maybe a story that they would have struggled to tell without the function of the Continental Classic. But we had it and it worked. Claudio Castagnoli, a key component to Darby Allen and that particular story I just mentioned. He also had a pretty decent showing. Will Ospreay made it all the way to the final. Was cheated at times, bloodied, made it to the final. Maybe took one too many losses, depending on your opinion on how many losses the likes of Will Ospreay should be taking. But fantastic performances all along the way. Made it to the final and was unsuccessful. Ricochet. Ricochet, Ricochet might be, just from a character standpoint, one of the biggest success stories of this. He may be, because Ricochet is now being spoken of. It may be negatively for some people. At one point, I was thinking, are they making this guy look too much like a dork? But they may know what they're doing. They may know what they're doing, and they may turn it all around, because Ricochet has at least something now to sink his teeth into. At the very least, he's got something to sink his teeth into. So we may see something with Ricochet, and it could be because of the likes of his inclusion in this tournament. So yeah, I think it is so integral for AEW to make sure they keep this tournament going, but they need to make it feel more special. They need to make it feel more major. They've called it a major tournament. They're counting it alongside other major tournaments. But I don't feel like we've got that major presentation. If we're comparing it to the G1, we definitely don't have that major presentation. The G1 even comes with you win a cup and then you become the number one contender. It's like what? You go to the main event challenge for the IWGP championship, So I think that we need a couple more. And of course, they tweaked a couple things this year. the winner of they put the semifinals on the pay-per-view. The winner of the gold block faced this person, and the winner of blue block faced that person, and the champion was in it. And there's an argument: does the champion need to be in the tournament, or who should he just be? Like the final boss at the end of the tournament, and whoever wins the tournament then faces him, almost like how they do with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. They have the match. Whoever wins the match, or the last two, then have a final, and then they face the guy that holds the Diamond Ring. There's a lot of arguments and stuff around it, but I think if we just take it for what it is, kind of cool down on maybe some of the nitpicking of it, like I just did, this is something AEW really need to hang their hat on. Might even go as far as say qualifiers for the C2. Make it feel like this is such an integral part of your calendar, because you're calling it a major thing. We can see all the good that it does when it comes to booking. So yeah, and give us a women's one. I think it's more than needed. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So yeah, big up the Continental Classic as a tournament, as a great piece of programming for AEW. Big up Okada winning that, retaining his belt, and Kenny Omega is back, and Kenny Omega, Okada is 6 months away. If we're being completely honest with ourselves, it's going to be about 6 months away from now. So it's going to be very interesting to see what both men do in the meantime. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that program.